via the accounting department, and the customer will pay for that invoice to the accounting department, and all along there is this material, iPhone, and the customer is paying for an iPhone because he needs to know for which material he is paying. So this is an example of service or financial transactions. So a material is used not just in sales, but in purchasing, financial, and so many other departments. We'll talk about the different departments in a bit, but let's just finish our life cycle. You know where we started? We started with the creation of a material, changing of a material, using the material in transactions, and finally, it can either be discontinued or archived. So what's the meaning of discontinued? And what's the difference between discontinuing a product and archiving the product? Say Apple has released a new version of the iPhone. Say it's iPhone 5 now, and then they're going to come up with 6. Now the older version of the iPhone is no longer required. So this material is going to be discontinued. I'm going to show you an example of how to discontinue a product or a material in SAP. And you can do it at country level or sales org level. Meaning, iPhone 5 might be discontinued in the US and superseded by iPhone 6. So iPhone 5 is no longer available in the US. But in other countries, say India, iPhone 5 may still be available. So what does that tell you? There needs to be a facility in SAP where you can discontinue products by sales org or by certain region. That is discontinuing a product. What's archiving? Say 10 years from now, I don't know, it could be iPhone version 25 or a different thing altogether. At that point, the iPhone 5 material is still in the system. Although it's discontinued, if you go to MM03, which is the transaction to view the customer master, it's still there. And all the transactions from 10 years which used that material are still there. Are they required? Well, that's a legal decision. For example, the US government says that you have to maintain transactions for 7 years in the pharma or medical domain. For iPhone, probably you only need to maintain it for 2 years. So if they are no longer required, they can be archived. So all the transactions, including the master data, the material, will be sent out of the ERP into a different box altogether. If you want to use them, there are different ways to use them. But once archived, you won't see them in MMO3, the standard transaction. That's archival. So that's the life cycle of a product. Now, we briefly touched on the different departments that use the product in the case of Apple and Best Buy. But let me explain it a little bit better. Let's take Apple, the same example. And Apple sells to Best Buy. In this case, it's a sale. Best Buy, in order to receive that sale, has to send a purchase order. So this is purchasing. So Apple sells while Best Buy purchases. So this is a sales order and this is a purchase order. So how many departments are involved here? Sales department, of course, and purchasing department, 2 different departments. Now Apple, let's say, manufactures this in some exotic location, somewhere in China, and stores them in a warehouse in San Francisco. And when it is coming from the plant, to the warehouse, Apple has to do quality and inspection. So there is a quality department that does that. So first we had the sales department that uses a material. Next we had a purchasing department that uses the same material. Next we had a quality department that uses the same material. So it's already 3 departments that use the material. Now Apple, although might not manufacture it on its own, it outsources it to some vendors. In order to do that, there is another department in any manufacturing company called the MRP department, Material Requirement Planning. They plan how many iPads need to be manufactured or how many iPhones need to be manufactured. And of course, they have a piece of the pie of the material master as well. So quality is the 3rd department and MRP is the 4th department. And of course, there is finance, because if Apple sells to Best Buy has to send money for the amount of goods that it has received, and the financial department of Apple will receive money against that invoice for the product iPhone. The point being, if you take the material master as a big elephant, different departments perceive it differently. And different departments store different data in the material master that's relevant for their department. For example, the sales department will store the sales relevant details of the material in that material master. So let's say if this circle represents an iPhone, the sales view or the sales data, the material, is only relevant for sales. Similarly, the finance data is only relevant for finance. And you can go on and on and on for all the different departments. Say purchasing, quality, MRP, and so on. There are almost around 16 to 20 different views. And we're going to see the most important views